Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and Forge of the Chaos Dwarfs releases today. Not only that, but we also get Mirrors of Madness, Ulrika McDover, and finally Update 3.0. A rather large patch as you can tell from the size of this video because yeah, it's a big boy. It's an actual big boy. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about stuff. We're going to not really talk about the stuff with the Chaos Dwarfs and Mirrors of Madness and so on because, I mean, you know, there's been a lot of videos on the channel, but there is a lot to discuss, so we're just going to sit down, have a little chat, talk about everything coming up. Again, thank you to Creative Assembly for providing the patch notes. Only got these yesterday, so I'm going to try my best to get them done before the embargo actually drops, and then I'm going to have a break. I think I deserve it. I'm going to have a day off. So yeah, let's just jump right in. So we've skipped all the stuff that's already been covered on the channel due to early access, and we're going to jump right into stability and performance. With the first being fixed an issue which caused modded custom characters to crash the game when opening the recruit lord/hero UI. This is great, they're helping out with modded stuff, and the more I see them helping out with modded stuff, the happier I get, because obviously Total War and modding go hand in hand, so this is awesome. Let's move on though. Fixed a soft lock when trying to declare war on a player faction with which you have a pending diplomatic negotiation. FPS drops when in the province tab is open should no longer happen. Awesome, this is great. A potential crash when going into battle due to the cleanup of military forces when leaving the campaign has been fixed. Okay, great, not seen that before, but obviously if they're actually going through these, it's definitely an issue that has been presented. Fixed an end of turn crash when Gotrek was killed in an inopportune time, causing a memory access issue. Okay, again, not something that I've dealt with. A crash that could occur when siege towers dock on adjacent wall pieces which are perpendicular to each other has been fixed. Okay, this is something that I had. This is great. And finally, fixed a crash that could occur when the game held data for province governorship for factions that did not own the province capital. Very specific, but again, they're fixing the crashes. This is good. So hopefully this fixes up a few issues for people that were having it in campaign. Alright, now we're going into the gameplay section. So update 3.0 is stacked. So for ease, here's a few key highlights, not fey highlights. General updates. You can now preview the landmark buildings you'll get access to in a settlement by hovering over it. This is a fantastic change. I absolutely adore this. Honestly, one of the best changes that have happened in Total War Warhammer so far. This means that it'll be easier for you to decide what settlements to go for because now you can see the landmarks without having to take the settlement. Now, we've introduced a new pack file limit that increases the number of mods that can be hypothetically run simultaneously, barring any cross-mod issues. This is fantastic, more mods. This means that if you've been looking for more, because there was a limit before, this is going to make the limit larger, which is obviously very, very good. We've added a new panel that allows you to search for certain items on the campaign map. There are two categories of search options available: physical items, settlements, provinces, factions, and characters, and landmarks/resources. Clicking any search result item will move the camera to show it. Fantastic. Again, another quality of life feature, very, very needed. I'm so happy about this because, you know, the Immortal Empires map is huge and this is just going to make it easier. Multiple buildings that were incorrectly marked as destructible have been updated game-wide, including those found within maps for the Vampire Counts, Dwarfs, Dark Elves, and more. This is actually like, you know, battle maps and so on. There were some buildings that just kind of broke, sometimes with stray gunfire and so on, so it's good to see this changed. It's not really noticeable though, so don't you worry. Updated the campaign map battle selection for both the Realm of Chaos and Immortal Empires campaign maps to ensure the correct battle tiles are displayed. Again, this is just for battle maps, because sometimes you'd get a weird map showing which isn't really for that area. Increase the effect of the A Stranger Comes event for all the Order factions, okay. New regions and provinces have made their way into the Realms of Chaos and Immortal Empires campaign maps of Warhammer 3. Not only that, the Earth's plates have shifted, causing some to find a new home elsewhere. Explore the lands and discover new settlements, regions, and conquer them if you wish. So yeah, we've already covered this. Basically, they added a bunch of territories into the Darklands, and, you know, Grimgor was slightly moved. The idea is just keeping things fresh, and it's a good thing, so overall I'm quite happy. Alongside the additions and relocations, several regions have had their borders adjusted, certain settlements within those regions have been moved around, roads have been tweaked where necessary, and a new sea lane has been added between the River Ruin and the Frozen Sea. Again, everything is all very good changes here. I'm very, very happy. The Darklands actually feel like the Darklands now. It feels more populated rather than just this empty hole with a settlement that would take 3 turns to get to. So yeah, pretty good. Now let's go over the rules and systems. Missions that require the taking of specific regions now complete instantly rather than on the start of your next turn. Again, a very useful thing, because there's some things that you'll just have to go to regions, but waiting another turn just kind of slows things down, so this is great. Fix various land battle maps to prevent reinforcements arriving in inaccessible areas. Yeah, this is something where your army would just get stuck, so this is great. Fix an issue where sailing into 2 sea encounters would sometimes result in the second not working correctly. Again, you'd get some weird map. So good, this is fixed. This is really, really nice. Updated various choke point areas on the campaign map to load correctly into an ambush battles. Okay, that's not too bad. And finally, allied recruitment will now take into account the military force bonus values. Again, all good changes, so I'm quite happy about this. Alright, we're going into AI rules and logic. So we've got a dev note here. Walled settlements and battles in general have received some improvements in the form of AI adjustments. We've been monitoring the feedback closely following the settlement changes we made in update 2.2, and we hear your concerns. With the following, we hope to alleviate some of the responsiveness issues you may be experiencing. We'll keep a close eye on how the changes work out. Okay, not too bad. We're going to be jumping into that in a second. AI is clearly an issue sometimes. I mean, this is Total War. It's not the best AI in general, but hey. Okay, we're going to talk about battle AI now. So in walled settlement battles, AI units will no longer double back on an approaching entry point and obstruct artillery units in an attempt to reform themselves. Again, pretty good. This should be quite interesting to see if it actually works or not, because yeah, sometimes AI's battles is just weird. Updated how attacking AI units groups are distributed in walled settlement battles to better take advantage of units capable of assaulting gates. This is something that we've seen live, and yep, it works perfectly fine. Fixed an issue in siege battles where attacking AI artillery units continued moving forward when they should remain stationary to fire. Again, yes, it makes it a bit harder for you, but definitely it's more logical. Artillery units targeting breaches will now more reliably reposition if they cannot successfully fire at a target. Cool. AI units will be less likely to blob together and will instead remain coordinated upon entering a walled settlement. Yes, this is something I've noticed very recently, and it's actually quite interesting. It does mean that you're going to have to think a little more when you're dealing with siege battles where they're attacking you. Fixed cases where the AI would think its units were at max health when they were not. Okay. Fixed an issue where a group of units would stop to brace instead of charging. Yeah, this is something that I've seen before. Fixed an issue in settlement battles where mounted Lord AI would become indecisive and get stuck moving back and forth. I'm not too sure if this is actually fixed. We actually did a rather large stream yesterday, and we did see a vampire character just kind of flying back and forth. He didn't actually land to fight, which is just kind of bizarre. In settlement battles, improvements have been made to the AI unit's priority analysis of areas within a settlement. This makes AI units more reliably prioritize capturing and recapturing capture points. Okay, not too bad. Still not a fan of the capture point system, but hey, I guess we're kind of stuck with it for now. Fixed an issue in settlement battles where defending AI unit becomes idle after morale breaks and flees instead of re-engaging the player units. Very specific, but okay. Units would remain hidden from player, leading to the player losing the battle due to time running out. See, I never play with times. I actually have unlimited time, so I never deal with this issue, but it's nice that it's fixed. That's what I'm saying. Fixed issue where AI would assign multiple battering rams to the same gate assault group, leading to the additional battering rams being abandoned. Okay, yeah, this is fixed. I've seen this happen, so I'm quite happy about this. Wall breaching AI unit groups no longer share wall breach targets with other nearby unit groups. This resolves an issue where units were not targeting closest available wall pieces. Updated outflank AI to handle flying units better. They're trying to flank a lot more, and this kind of makes sense, obviously. It's just kind of weird when you see like Imric with 7 dragons trying to flank with you with all 7 dragons. Not more so weird than terrifying, but hey, I mean, it's a good tactic. In settlement battles, when the attacking army is AI controlled, it will more consistently deploy a nearby reinforcements arrival at, I guess, and wait for reinforcements before proceeding. Yeah, I found that weird. I thought you'd still attack anyway, but yeah, I mean, wait for everything. It just means that you'll just get a lot more damage done. Improved logic involved in determining how many breaches the AI will attempt to create before waiting units begin entering settlements. This will reduce the likelihood of AI units remaining idle outside settlements. Okay, pretty good, pretty good. And finally, fixed an issue where AI units assaulting a settlement gate would abandon the assault, leaving units with no other means of entering the settlement stranded outside for the duration of the battle. Okay. I don't know, I kind of saw this in a battle yesterday's stream actually, with a White King just kind of waiting outside. So maybe there's still a few issues that they need to iron out. And finally, with a dead note. While it is true that Skaven aren't known for caring about the livelihoods of their subordinates, war losses are an important part of the peace evaluation calculation, and it was detrimental for them to ignore it. Skaven leaders, of course, do not care about losing battles, as such thing is clearly evidence of plots against them. Okay, yeah, just a little lore tidbit, I guess, more than anything. But so far, so good. This is pretty good. Right, we're moving on to campaign AI. Adjusted the strategic threat calculations for Immortal Empires. Direct actions against a faction are now much more important in that calculation, and the importance of distance scaling has been increased, improving the way AI will select the most relative threats. Okay. Hopefully this means player bias, but we'll have to wait and see. Further tweaks have been made to the AI's recruitment priorities to favor high-value units. Okay. Additionally, the AI will place more weight on building a recruitment building if they are without one. So they're going to be getting some higher tier units. This is great because I was tired of seeing just trash stacks. This was actually kind of noticeable when I was doing the early access stuff because the Skaven weren't just recruiting Skaven slaves. So yeah, overall this is kind of good. I'm quite happy about that. Fixed various cases of the AI trying to enter stances which were invalid, leading it to trying to perform moves which were also invalid. Fixed the AI control option for allied armies not showing when being attacked by an enemy. Fixed cases of the AI trying to apply commandments to provinces that it didn't own. That's pretty specific, but okay. Fixed a bug which meant that the AI became less, as opposed to more, likely to generate a peace deal the further away the target was. This is going to be very, very good. All factions now care about their strategic situation when generating a war declaration goal. Improved AI performance in the first turn of the game. Okay, so this is just to make sure that they actually do stuff. Minor AI factions should now be more accepting of vassalization. Yes, we've been saying that very often lately. Fixed cases of the AI attempted to calculate the strength of a force was resulting in incorrect behavior. Reduce the distance required for the maximum distance modifiers to be applied in both deal generation and deal evaluation. War declaration on a faction of the same subculture is now less likely for High Elf Major, Empire Major, and all Lizardmen factions. Okay, good. This means that they won't be fighting as much. No civil wars all over the place when they should be dealing with other stuff. All factions now consider war losses when evaluating a peace deal. Previously, Skaven mages, Dwarfs, and Tomb Kings were not. This is going to be good. Yeah, I've noticed that the Skaven are more likely to get some peace deals up. Same thing with the Dwarfs. And sometimes you just want to peace out with them because you just don't want to deal with them. Keep in mind, there are also some factions which will just naturally hate you. Like if you're playing the Chaos Dwarves, getting peace with the Dwarfs is not going to be common. But overall, very, very good changes. Alright, line of sight, and we have a dev note here. Line of sight has been a long sticking point in Warhammer 3's overall battle responsiveness. And we're making some adjustments with update 3.0, as you'll see below. Many of the issues came from various objects and props in the environment, which would sometimes lead to units attempting to walk through a destructible object rather than shoot over it. We're continuing to iterate this work, but please keep the feedback coming in as we continue to tweak the many facets that can prevent your units from firing when they should. So let's talk about this, right? We've updated and corrected the logic on various prop buildings to work better with the line of sight issues across battle maps game-wide, including but not limited to lampstands on Dark Elf battle maps. I've never really noticed that, but okay. Britonia and Grand Cafe market stalls, tents, tables, and other destructible assets, okay. Ogre Kingdom's environmental objects, typically those on the grounds like bones and carts, several constructible towers on the Shangyang map, tiny destructible pieces of terrain game-wide that were essentially detrimental to gunpowder units, and wall collision on Dwarven maps. So yeah, I've noticed line of sight being a lot better. Sometimes it's not great on certain maps, but it's definitely a lot better. It can be felt that there is actual improvements. So I'm very happy about this. If you're playing a ranged army, you should feel like it's actually kind of worth it now. So we're going to move on now to just further tweaks. So updated the building collisions of platform barricades to allow greater line of sight and firing for docked missile units. And finally, again, updated and corrected the logic on various buildings to prevent artillery from targeting them across battle maps game-wide. So yeah, pretty good. I'm happy. This is going to make things a little easier for range factions. So yeah, we're going to jump right into the next stuff, I guess. Alright, now we're jumping into the races and balance section. You can tell this is going to be a very long video because we actually haven't reached the races yet, but let's go into the general section. So, fix some general inconsistencies with units having or not having the siege attacker tribute. Great. Fix the lore of Wild Spell Mantle of Gorok, not being able to be overcasted via campaign skill trees. This was an issue, yeah. And finally, with the Chaos Dwarfs here, we're adamant about improving the quality of life of some other factions who have been struggling from the outset. Therefore, some adjustments have been made to their start positions or the strength of nearby settlements to allow them to take a second settlement on their first turn, bringing them in line with other factions of Immortal Empires. The factions are as follows: Zhao Ming, Greasus Goldtooth, Tehenuin, Krokgar, Taurox, Snickage, Helmangorst, and the Fey Enchantress. So yeah, they're not all moving. They kind of forgot Grimgor here, because Grimgor did actually move. But yeah, they're going to last a little more. Zhao Ming does last. Snickage ends up taking a lot of Cafe, same as Ghost. Not noticed too much with the Fey Enchantress. Taurox kind of dies because all Beastmen factions kind of die out early. Krokgar does very, very well. Tehenuin does okay. And Greasus actually does something now, which is actually amazing. So he actually does control a general chunk of the Mountains of Morn now, which is pretty good. Now there's a big section here. Spells and non-spell skills have received an adjustment to their miscast chance modifiers, making it a single direct sum as opposed to the previous system, which calculated a direct percentage alongside a separate percentage modifier. There's also a bunch of changes when it comes to spells too. Changes to Winds of Magic cost. Some spells got a bit more expensive. Some spells just got generally better. Some spells got nerfed. For example, the Law of Fire has just gotten generally better because they changed that. Obviously, there's a Law of Ashut now. I've got them on screen right now, but I'm not going to go over all of them because I really don't want this video to be like 42 hours long. And like, seriously, we're still not even at the race changes yet. Same thing with general abilities. There's been some balancing. Some stuff got buffs, well-needed buffs in all honesty, and some stuff got nerfed. Mostly probably been noticed with the Unholy Lodestone, where the heal amount has been slightly reduced, but I feel like it's kind of needed. However, it does improve leadership now, so I don't know. I still think it's still pretty good overall. We're going to start talking about race changes now. We're starting off with the Beastmen, with the dev note being as follows. There are not too many changes for the Beastmen for this time around, although they should benefit quite nicely from the upgrades to articulated vehicles that have been made. This is chariots and stuff. We've given Bestigors a nice buff too, as they were underperforming across the board. This should improve their combat potential as elite infantry. I mean, it's still Bestigors, but you know. So, general updates. Fixed cases where Beastman capacity, unit capacity would be increased twice from the same effect. E.g., +4 Harpies would actually get +8. Shame, because it was kind of useful. Fixed the Beastmen follower Manish Thrall not being equipable by Wargore heroes. This was kind of well known. Fixed an issue where the capital border image was missing on Beastmen settlements in the settlement panel, and fix Taurox and Oxyotl's quest battles, the Heart of the Dark, not playing the intro cutscene correctly. When we go into campaign, we've got the following. Fixed an issue where the Beastmen Hearthstone upgrades were not applying. Now, when erecting a Hearthstone, it will be created at the correct level based on the upgrade the player has selected. Fix the Ruinous Stance's Hearthstone building not providing additional dread from fighting battles. Fix Malagor's Nightmarish Cabal skill not reducing Bray Shaman hero action costs. Clarified the effect given by the unique Hearthstone buildings available at Altdorf. It now provides melee attack when fighting against all human races rather than just Empire and Bretonia. And finally, fix the Bray Shaman unit card on the campaign map. There's of course some balancing as you can see on screen, and then we've got some fixes when it comes to skills and technology. So skills first. Fix Morgur's Herald of Corruption skill not applying corruption to adjacent provinces. Fixed an issue where Malagor's Crowfather skill would apply twice. Fixed Malagor's Something Wicked This Way Comes skill, reducing enemy leadership as the skill level increases. And updated Beastmen skills and challenges to include buffs to feral manticores. Which is great, because manticores can be semi-useful. I mean, very semi, but still. And then finally, for technology, fixed a number of Beastman technologies, Roaming Torment, Bestial Resistance, and Vitriolic Temperament, not applying the stated effects to the stated units, and fixed the Beastman Challenge / technology, Worldbane, not giving weapon strength when fighting against all human races. Not too bad, honestly, not too bad. You will notice that chariots overall have a lot more mass, making them much more useful throughout your campaign, and actually becoming an actual, unit that you want to use. Moving on to Bretonnia now, with a dev note we have the following. Bretonnia's had a rough time lately, so to help a little, their late game cavalry has been given a few sturdy buffs. In the future, we hope to bring Bretonnia's battle capabilities up a notch to meet some of the newer factions, but in the interest of not over-egging the particular pudding, we'll be keeping a close eye on how they progress in the present after this update. So yeah, general unit buffs, you can see a lot of that here. There's one campaign thing which just changes the diplomatic penalties between Couronne and Marienburg. Doesn't really change your campaign overall, as you're still going to be fighting them early. You want to go directly for them to be able to take the building and get the benefits from the cash. So yeah, mostly battle changes. There are some technology changes, which are as follows. The chivalry bonus for fighting Warriors of Chaos with the Ruinous Powers decree technology now provides correctly. Originally, the bonus for fighting Warriors of Chaos was mistakenly coming from the Green Tide decree effect. Weird. Support religious errantry no longer gives Rapun's diplomacy with herself, even weirder. An increased turn duration required for Borderlow Confederation technology. Okay, fair enough. I mean, it's not too bad. So moving on to the Demons of Chaos, notably Daniel, and there is a dev note here. While it looks like the Demons of Chaos haven't received that many changes at first glance, they do benefit from the changes to the monogod rosters. Our changes here center mostly around Be'lakor, who has received a few nerfs after our data showed him to be overperforming in most cases. This is for multiplayer battle, not actually standard battle. It's something kind of important to know here. There's a little upkeep there, but that's his own faction. He counts as a Warrior of Chaos thing. So, general updates. Updated various items from the Demon Prince to provide greater difference in the weapon effects and added relevant lore to passive abilities. That's pretty much fine. Daniel's still Daniel. Fixed visual quality of Demon Prince Sinesh and Corn Shields, that's cool. And added filters to the Demon Prince gear parts that allow you to search, sort, and filter by alignment all parts available to the Demon Prince. This is very, very, very good, as it's absolutely frustrating, especially if you want to, dedicate to a god. You just want specific parts, so this works out pretty well. And finally for campaign, fix the Demon Prince's Reverence building chains, not offering the extra income reward when growth per turn was higher than 200, and while dedicated to Nurgle, as described by the text building. So yeah, overall, not a lot of changes to Daniel. We do have some obvious balancing when it comes to their units, but it also is important to note that if you play with the Mirror of Madness DLC, FLC, sorry, you'll be able to unlock new items for Tzeentch only, but they are fairly powerful. You can actually become very, very powerful and get a really unique looking Daniel now. Alright, we're moving on to the Dark Elves, and there is another dev note. I feel every race has a dev note. I haven't read through all of them just yet. So, Dark Elves are in a pretty good place right now, battle-wise. But they have been indirectly hit thanks to a bug where riders on their war machines were firing more projectiles than intended. This issue was skewing the performance of Scourge Runner chariots and Blood Rat cauldrons quite significantly. We've also made a notable buff to Shades, which should help diversify the weapon variants a little more and reduce their recruitment time in campaign. Okay, this is going to be quite interesting. So, general updates. Fixed an issue with the FLC banners not displaying correctly in some situations in skirmish and versus AI, the minor faction of Clark Arund will now start with their faction leader on the map as intended. I had no idea that wasn't even the case. Fixed issues with defensive towers on the Har Claldrum battle map. I really hope that they're looking to fix defensive towers on a lot of these maps, because some of them, they just fire into walls. It's really, really weird and annoying. And Hargreaves skin assets have been updated on the top bar. For the campaign, we have the following. Fix an issue where the Black Ark was only displacing water on one side. When disbanded, the Dark Elf Lords will no longer gain another name of power. Oh, that's weird. Black Arks can now be recruited via ally recruitment. I'm pretty sure that's not, right? Because that seems a bit much. Right? I don't know. That's just really thrown me off. I'm going to have to test this. And the battles basically just rework Manus's intro quest scenes, and that's pretty much it. We're moving on to the Dwarfs. So another dev note. Now that the Great Shame has finally reared its fiery bovine head, the Dwarfs have upgraded their shields for their melee lords, heroes, and infantry, along with having their recruitment costs tweaked. So general updates are as follows. Fixed an issue in the model version variation used by the Dwarf Lord characters. Don't know what that issue actually was. Fixed pathfinding issues in Dwarven minor settlements to prevent units from burrowing under the terrain. Interesting. Fixed a gap in the terrain along the wall of Karak Asgaraz. Okay. For campaign, Forgrim Grudgebearer was now not going to be a wide elect account? I'm not too sure what that means. Oh, right, because sometimes his unit card can just be extra thick. Forik Ironbrow has his mission chain for confederating Karak Azul again. Okay, good. He currently is able to confederate the normal way as he does in Warhammer 2. Okay, so he's got both, I guess, right? Removing an agent from military forces now removes the correct active agent actions. Okay, good. And that's pretty much it. Some balancing changes here and there. It's a lot of balancing stuff. I don't know why, again, there's so much focus on multiplayer stuff. But hey, at the end of the day, multiplayer needs to be balanced. But it's kind of weird to call this the biggest patch ever when it's focusing on one part, which only like 5% of the player base actually plays, by the way. Or even less than that. Right, we're moving on to Grand Cafe now, and you can imagine that these patches are only going to get larger and larger as more races get added into the series. It is feeling pretty bloated. We're around 25, 26 minutes in. So, Cafe Death Note. Cafe are generally doing pretty good at the moment, but there were some cost corrections needed for their lords in multiplayer. Jade Warriors have also received some tweaks to bring them in line with the comparable units from other factions. Let me see here. So, general updates. The rice terraces of the Turtle Field will now deal less fall damage to chariots. God damn, I'm so happy this has finally been freaking fixed. Oh my god. It's been like a year. It's been over a year. I can't believe this. Please just... I hope it's fully gone, man, because it's just so ridiculous. I hate that map so much because of those issues. It's not just with Iron Blasters, it's literally with every chariot-based unit. It's... Oh my god. Finally. Finally, I hope it's fully gone. I hope it's fully gone. Let's continue. Gotrek and Felix added to Grand Cafe skirmish battles. For campaign, Miao Ying will now attack the nearest settlement after completing the first battle on turn 1. In the Realm of Chaos, who cares, and fix the bug which would cause Weijin to lack 10 settlement slots if you recaptured it. Yeah, this is something that was kind of annoying, so I'm actually kind of happy it's fixed. Right, greenskins now. So the dev note is as follows. Greenskins have benefited greatly in this patch and have lots of lovely changes to talk about. Savage Orc, Boar Boys, and all their associated biggins have received some melee defense buffs. Ooh. Okay, which should increase their staying power in combat. Pomp wagons were severely underperforming, so they've received a bit of a redesign to help them stand out a bit from the other war machines on the roster. Now sporting 12 entities per unit on ultra unit size instead of 4. Good damn, wow. They should now be more chaotic than before. Finally, we've given Arachnarok Spiders a bit more leadership and buffed their damage slightly as they were underperforming. Savage Orcs being a lot more powerful is quite good. I'm still waiting for Savage Orc Lords and, well, just in general, all the Savage Orc stuff. Creative Assembly, so if you want to, might not be too bad to do that eventually. So they fixed Grimgor. He's no longer just green anymore. He's supposed to be a Black Orc, so he needs to be darker. Grimgor's victory conditions now include Chaos Dwarfs, which makes sense. They added a trail for the rock lobbers, which is okay. This one's better. So they re-added unique garrisons for Skarsniks and Wurzag's main settlement and garrison chains. So this is pretty good. I'm actually quite happy about that, considering that, you know, they're supposed to be very different. They're supposed to be different cultures. So I'm happy. We're moving on to the High Elves now, and it does feel like these patch notes are never ending. So, dev note, a few corrections and changes for the High Elves this time around, but overall they're performing quite well. Lothan Seaguard and Chariot mounts have received a cost correction, with Chariots also benefiting from the mass increase. War Lions have received a chunky buff, and the fire resistance of units of, well, those of the Kaldorians notably have been reduced slightly. They still feel very, very powerful, I'll tell you that. So with the coming of the Chaos Dwarfs, we've also removed flaming attacks from the dragon melee weapons, so that they remain competitive against the new race of fire resistance. The breath attack, however, will be considered a flaming attack as it was in tabletop. Okay, well, you know, it kind of works. It should have just been a magical weapon anyway. So general updates. Fixed textures in the Arcane Phoenix. Lithanar's faction now has access to Lilith Blessing stance rather than the raiding stance. Okay. Here we go into campaign. Fixed issues with Imric's dragon encounters not triggering after completing the 5 named dragon encounters. Pretty good. Yeah, that's a bit of an issue because you want to use them for general buffs anyway. Fixed an exploit where Altharion could capture prisoners from reinforcing armies when in lightning strike battle. Fixed Lithanar's marked for death mission markers, revealing enemies in the ambush stance. I mean, I kind of thought that was kind of thematic, to be honest. When it comes to battles too, updated and connected the connections of the gatehouses to the capture points in the Ulthuan Gate Settlement battle maps. Reworked the quest battle intro scene. Oh, okay, that's fine. I mean, I was hoping to see finally fix the Sunfang quest. It's done from a last patch, but they should have just kept the meme going, I guess. No real changes to Khorne, just real balancing, and the balancing is good, don't get me wrong. I just really hope they would make him like a pseudo-horde, that way Skarbrand is a bit more viable in campaign. I mean, I'm just not really interested in playing Skarbrand right now because Empire management is kind of bad. I feel like that could be fixed if Skarbrand and the Exalted Bloodthirsters had access to, you know, pseudo-hordes. So Kislev, and there's a dev note here. Kislev hasn't been doing great in battles recently, so these changes act as a first step towards improving things. Armored Corsairs and Zargard have received some melee buffs to boost their frontline in staying power, while all Kislev cavalry get a mass boost to match with some of their competitors, okay, from other races. Ice Guard also have gained an additional missile penetration. Okay, so the most important thing is the actual stuff that we're going to see in campaign. This is general updates, for example. Reduce the number of factions at war with and holding diplomatic negatives towards Konstantin. This is why Konstantin actually starts expanding now into Norska, which is good. Catherine now maintains both the magical attacks and frostbite contact effects when on her war bear mounts. Yep. Boris' start position has been moved when in multiplayer campaigns in Immortal Empires, with Astrogoth and Boris now being played. Okay, that's not too bad. And then just some basic stuff here and there. It's not really a lot. Like, Kislev does need a lot more help. One day we'll hopefully get a big patch focusing around them, but I imagine that's going to be around DLC time for Kislev. Not a lot of changes for Lizardmen. Instead, it's just really focusing on multiplayer. And yeah, I'll be honest with you, I don't really care too much about multiplayer. As much as it is something that's kind of cool, yeah, there's not a lot of campaign fixes. You'd think that a big patch like this would actually focus a bit more on it. I don't know, I'm not trying to sound like annoying or anything, but there's clearly issues with certain factions, and we're just not seeing them. It's strange. So regarding Norska, we had the following. Norska have received a few targeted buffs to some of their underperforming units. Mammoths are cheaper. Vermeer now get their scaly skin bonus from the tabletop. Okay, that's actually not too bad. And Marauder champions with great weapons have been ironed out a bit, with Ice Wolf chariots also receiving a buff to their missile weapon. Okay, that's not too bad, yeah. But again, mostly unit buffs, which is okay at the end of the day. You know, they do kind of need a little bit of help, but I feel that Norska performs better now since Immortal Empire's launched than, well, even Kislev at this point. Right, so Nurgle did actually get some pretty good changes. So the dev note is, Nurgle hasn't been feeling great for a while, so we've targeted some changes at some problem units. Rotflies, Plague Drones, Plague Toads, Pox Riders have all received some pretty considerable buffs. And also that -5 speed reduction from the Mark of Nurgle has been removed, making the marked mortal units of Nurgle effective at reaching their destination on time. Yeah, that's actually quite good. The fact is that on the tabletop, it didn't remove your speed. What it did is just increase your toughness. So I found it kind of weird that they just did that, right? Other than that, yeah, it's pretty decent buffs. I mean, Plague Toads are actually useful now. They've got some armor-piercing damage and so on. The flies are better too. It's nice that Nurgle finally got a decent boost. It doesn't fix everything, don't get me wrong. It doesn't fix everything. There are very, very considerable issues, but at least it's a start, right? I think that's pretty much all we can be happy about. They need to fix up the campaign stuff. Just a little bit of increase in cash and so on can probably just make Nurgle a lot better. Alright, so we're going into the Ogres now, and once again, battle focus. It's just annoying. The Ogres do need a little bit more help too. I know that they want to really make the battles better. This is why we need 2 teams. I honestly think that 2 teams is needed for the future of Total War Warhammer. And in fairness, like all Total War games in the future should really have balancing separated in campaign and also multiplayer, because, you know, this is a big patch for campaign, you know, Chaos Dwarfs, and it feels like the majority of the patching is actually going for multiplayer. Okay, we're going to talk about the Skaven now. So general updates, added +5 leadership to Rat Ogres to the Skaven technology practice quarters. That's actually kind of good. The Rat Ogres have been absolutely garbage to me, so it's going to be good to get a little bit of leadership bonuses. Fixed an issue with the general Skaven banner texture glow, okay. The Unclean Energy Bar upgrade is now usable within Frot's Flesh Laboratory. Okay. Fixed a number of cases where effects were being applied to Skaven weapon team units twice, such as via technology. Okay, just like via technology itself. Okay. That just threw me off. Broken Plague Furnace uses its actual correct model. Fixed an issue where one of Frot the Unclean's weapons docked incorrectly. Okay. Skaven Nero Parasites now correctly trigger audio, alright. Fixed an issue where projectiles could be launched through the cliff face on the altar. Yeah, that was a massive issue where you could just shoot through basically cliffs and stuff. It was so weird. And the Skaven had access to the Brightstone Mine landmark in Mount Goodban. That's about time. That's pretty much it, yeah. But still, generally, that's good things, I guess. Sometimes it's not needed. Let's be honest, the Skaven are in a pretty good place. All really that I really want is Skrork to have plague mechanics and we're done. So Slaanesh is in a good place now, seeing as the warriors of Slaanesh has finally gotten poison attacks, so it gives them a little bit more of staying power. In general, the chariots are doing better because chariots are better. The mounts are a little bit nerfed, which is annoying, but in general, yeah, can't really complain. They have reduced the physical resistance for the warriors, though. This is kind of annoying, I must say, because let's be honest, like the faction doesn't really expand that much. I mean, Azazel does okay now. The AI does at least. But Nakari just gets demolished a lot. But still, I'm happy with how we're going here. I feel like it's good balancing for Slaanesh. Campaign-wise, it feels okay. Again, not a lot of changes for the Empire, but they did allow for the Cult of Sigmar to be able to confederate with the Empire, which is pretty good. And yeah, after overall, I mean, the Empire is in a good place. It's just they are in a bad area. I feel a few buffs here and there when it comes to future DLC, most likely with Tamilcon and Elsef, they'll be able to survive a little bit more. Mind you, they've actually been fairly decent playing through this patch in survivability. They're able to hold off, and you can see Carl actually confederating with the other factions and building up from there. So I guess there has been some change to their potential, maybe. Literally nothing for the Tomb Kings, which is fine, I guess. The Tomb Kings do actually hold out quite well. They can even deal quite well against the Chaos Dwarfs, which is kind of funny. Sure, there could be a bit more, there could be interesting stuff, but maybe future DLC? Like, they're still missing stuff. But yeah, as a faction, Tomb Kings work perfectly well. I really enjoy this DLC. Tzeentch got some damage bonuses, which kind of explains why Kairos can sometimes take over the Southern Waste and push into the Southlands, which I'm not too angry about, honestly. I kind of like the idea of Tzeentch being a little stronger, because I was honestly thinking we wouldn't see a strong Tzeentch faction until DLC in the future. So yeah, seeing them a little bit more active, pretty good. Vampire Coast are getting some slight nerfs, which is kind of annoying, because... I mean, you know, they don't really do that well. It's a faction which mechanically very, very unique, but performing is getting weaker, and especially as you're dealing with more varied enemies that can deal with you quite easily. I don't know what to think of this. No changes to the vampire counts, barring the fact that Gorst now gets extra growth, which is going to be terrifying. I mean, that explains why he pushes out so much, because he's getting to higher tier buildings quite quicker. But yeah, they are very, very, very strong. So let's see how this goes. They did kind of nerf the Graveguard a little bit, but other than that, I don't think it's going to be noticeable. Most of you just bring zombie stacks. Not a lot of changes to the Chaos Warriors, but there is one change there, that the Warriors of Chaos Beast building now also increased Forsaken unit capacity, which is kind of good, because the Forsaken aren't really too bad. So yeah, it's kind of nice to be able to have a few there running out. Just a few bonuses. I think Knights in general, so horses... and obviously chariots getting stronger. A little bit of a nerf to the Dragon Ogres, I think, which isn't too bad. Actually, no, not so much. It's more of a buff because their upkeep cost is actually quite reduced. So yeah, that's not too bad. Not a lot for the Wood Elves once again, but we're done with the balancing and, you know, kind of thank God here because it's a long video and we still have a little bit more to go. I don't know if I'm going to get this rendered in time. I'm actually kind of terrified. But yeah, Wood Elves are perfectly fine. They're kind of strong. Their campaign is pretty simple. Yeah, let's move on. A few changes have come into the campaign for the prologue. This is just basically to fix some stuff up, and the Realm of Chaos 2 reduced the number of factions at war with the Ice Court to make it a little bit easier for Kislev, and the visibility of the Chaos Realms is now correctly saved upon reloading a game. That's great because that can cause issues if you save while still in the realm. I feel like this is okay. Diplomacy, there's a nice change here though for campaign. In cases where a faction had mission-driven Confederation, a small boost has been applied to the Confederation faction, making it less likely to die before the player can complete the mission. This is actually a really good change, and I'm quite happy. So overall, very, very happy there. It's not a lot of changes, but then again, the campaign is fine. It's just the races overall that need the changes. A bunch of new endless survival battles have been added into custom battles. I guess maybe Creative Assembly have seen the demographic and seen that they get played fairly often, mostly through custom battles so you can play other races. Hey, I'm not knocking it. I've played a few of them. They're kind of fun. It's nothing that really interests me because I'm more of a campaign player, but this might be cool for some people considering that it's an interesting mechanic, and I think it could be cool to add in for, you know, different parts of DLCs for final battles like we've seen with the Champions of Chaos. But I guess we're just going to have to wait and see. Either way, yeah, if you want to test out your favorite races in a more thematic map and don't want to deal with the epoxy Chaos Realm maps, at least this gives you some variety, right? At the end of the day, you know, more functionality, more goodies to play around with, even if it's not just specifically targeted at me, is a good thing. So I'm going to be quite happy about this. Alright, so we're near the end. So CA have been trying to push up on fixing up a lot of terrain issues, graphical issues around various different battle maps. You can see them listed on screen right now. I will say that not all of them have been fixed, actually. One of the last battles that we did on my live stream yesterday, which, by the way, little shout out here, twitch.tv/thegreatbookofgrudges. It's going to be Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays that we'll be streaming again. There were floating trees. But I guess that happens. I have reported that to Creative Assembly, though, so these things do happen. Yeah, I mean, graphical issue fixing is great. I like the fact that they're fixing a bunch of things that were kind of bothering. It does take away from your immersion. So, yeah, I mean, this is all good. Now, this patch does come with an overhaul, which is articulated vehicle collision overhaul, which is something that they tried to do in Warhammer 2, but it seems that they've redone it again just to make sure that things actually work. So the fact is that there are a few main things, right? So the entity as a whole, then there's the mount, then there's the engine, and then there's the rider. and all this can affect collision in certain ways. Prior to this change, the articulated entity alone was colliding with friendly and enemy units. This meant that the collision block had to be relatively large and encompass the entire unit to make the collision fair. The other collision volumes of the mount, rider, and engines were only used for colliding with incoming projectiles. This led to problems when these units were attempting to turn, as seen in the image. So the large white box there in the image is the collision area. Okay. Because this was the only part of the vehicle that collided with other units, these units experienced difficulties when turning while surrounded in melee, ultimately leading to situations where they could get stuck. Yeah, this was a massive issue. Okay, let's see what they do to fix this. So in patch 3.0, we can see some changes over here. The mount, entity, and engines all work in conjunction when colliding with enemy units. To illustrate, here is a comparison to the collision of a Cold One chariot, and we can see here. Okay, so that means that charging in is better. I guess that makes sense. We did notice that some chariots were doing a little bit better. And yeah, I'm going to have to test this out a little bit more. But overall, this means the charges are actually going to be a bit better and they might not get stuck as much. Okay, this is sounding quite good, especially if you're going to be playing, you know, Beastmen. If you're going to be playing Slaanesh, it's very noticeable for Slaanesh. I guess it's time to run a new Slaanesh campaign. Yeah, why not? There's a few other things that I missed, but it's mostly just talking about the Law of Fire changes, which is literally just a visual thing, some text adjustments, really everything that you, you know, already aware of, some audio fixes, all that type of stuff that really I don't cover because it's nothing really that actually affects the game. Audio stuff, yeah, I guess does affect it, but you know what I mean. We do have a little outro though, and they say that 3.1 is already pretty much planned and they have a good date for it, so it arrives in a few weeks. That's pretty cool. I guess it's going to be another monthly thing. I really hope that they're keeping to the monthly patches system because I think that's quite good. Yeah, big patch, very big patch. Not focused on stuff that I would like, in all fairness, but hey, at least they're trying to focus on other stuff. They're getting stuff fixed up. Graphical issues, obviously a big thing to sort out. Fixing up Slaanesh, very happy about that. Thank you if anyone from CA is listening. I very much love the poison attacks on the Hell Scourges. Yeah. I mean, overall, it's quite good. It's a pretty long video, so I'm going to cut it off here because I need to edit this and get this out on time. And I want to, like, sleep. Because this was supposed to be my day off. We already got the patch notes fairly recently. But with all that being said, let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and let's start a bit of a discussion. I hope you guys enjoyed the DLC. I'm gonna go to bed. See you all soon.